Woodland birds in the Australian wheatbelt. Why habitat fragmentation is an issue. So what is the Australian wheatbelt? Well, as the name suggests, it's a long narrow strip of land, just like a belt, used for growing wheat. It goes through Western Australia, South Australia, Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland. This area used to be covered with thousands of square kilometres of woodlands, but crops can't be grown in the spaces between trees. More and more trees were cleared in order to create fields used for agriculture. This changed the composition of the land immensely. Areas with the most fertile soils were chosen first to be used for agriculture, and soon the landscape was covered with tall yellow fields of wheat. The remaining patches of woodland were mostly high, rocky areas with poor quality soils, bordered by roads, fences, and waterways. Large woodland habitats were divided into small, isolated islands. This meant an increase in the amount of edge habitats and a decrease in the amount of interior habitats. But what does this mean for the birds that rely on the woodland as their habitat? It means populations are more affected by natural threats such as drought and predation, as well as man-made threats like vehicle collisions. Habitat fragmentation also affects the genetic diversity within populations. Because it is much more difficult and dangerous for animals to interact between fragments than within them, the gene pool becomes much more limited. This directly affects the number of woodland birds which can survive in these areas. By 2000, 3 species were vulnerable, endangered, and locally extinct, and 11 species were near threatened. In response to this, the federal government created the Australian Action Plan for Birds 2000, which included conservation suggestions for areas of the wheatbelt. This included placing fragments under conservation management, working with landowners to create connections between isolated populations, and controlling introduced predators such as foxes.